All right, this is the test review for the Unit 10 test over circles. And here we go. So this first section is just matching the name with the description, with the definition. So the first one says a line that intersects a circle at 2 points. So a line, now notice here it says a line. That means it has arrows. It's going through the circle at 2 points. That is going to be called a secant line. So that is B. Number 2, a line, ray, or segment that intersects a circle at 1 point. Okay, so this only intersects at 1 point. That is going to be a tangent line. Number 3, a segment with both endpoints on the circle. Notice here it's a segment, both endpoints on the circle. That's a chord. And then number 4, a segment with one endpoint on the circle and the other endpoint at the center. So think about this. You have a circle, you have the center. One's in the center, one's on the outside of the circle. That is called a radius. Okay, number 5. In circle O, it says RS is congruent to ST. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that. So RS is congruent to ST. If RS is 130, identify the measure of ST. Okay, so if ST and RS are congruent, then ST must also be 130. Alright, number 6. Given that BA is a diameter, find X. Okay, so BA right here, it's saying that's a diameter, which means it's cutting this circle in half. So this side is 180 degrees, and this side is 180 degrees. So what I'm going to do is take these two pieces and add them together and set them to equal to 180. So x plus x is 2x. 17 minus 3 is 14. And that equals 180. And then I'm just going to solve this from here. So minus 14. So 2x equals 166. And then divide that in half. So 166 divided by 2, and you get 83. So x is 83. Number 7. Given that BE and AD are diameters, what is the measure of BC? Okay, so they're saying, I'm going to look at AD first. So AD right here is a diameter. So I know it's cutting that circle in half, which means I can find this little piece of pie that's missing. So I have 30 and 60, that's 90. And I know that has to add up to be 180. So this is also going to be 90. Oh, and it asks for the measure of BC. So there we go. So if that angle is 90, then I know that that arc is 90 because it's a central angle. So 90 degrees. Number 8, assume chords BE and CD are equal in length. So I'm just going to mark that. CD and BE are equal in length. Which of the following is true? So A says arc DE is half the measure of DAE. Okay, we haven't talked about that at all. Angle DAE, so DAE is half of an arc. Nope. And then arc BE is congruent to CD. So BE is congruent to CD. That is true. Those arcs are congruent because those chords are congruent. So that answer is C. Number 9, if AC is 26 and CD is 10, then find AB. Okay, so what you see here is a little right triangle. So what I need to do first is find that missing piece of that triangle by using Pythagorean theorem. Notice here that your 26 is your hypotenuse. So I'm going to have x squared plus 10 squared equals 26 squared. So x squared plus 100 equals 26 squared. 26 squared is 676. Okay, if I subtract 100 from both sides, I get x squared equals 576. And the square root of 576 is 24. So this little piece here is 24, and it wants me to find AD. So DB is also 24. So if I add those together, I get 48. Okay, number 10, find AC. Okay, so if this little piece here is 6, I also know this other piece is 6. Notice that these two chords, so chord DF and chord AC, these two chords are equidistant from the center. That means they're both the same distances from the center. That means that this chord and this chord are congruent. So 6 and 6. If that chord is 12, so is that one. Number 11, given that NOL, so arc NOL, this whole thing here is 250, find the measure of MN. So we're just finding the measure of this little piece. Okay, what I'm going to do first is find the measure of everything that's missing. So I'm going to do 360 minus 250, and that is going to get me 110. Okay, and what I know about that arc right there is that it's cut in half. And half of 110 is 55. Number 12, find X if the measure of angle 1. Okay, so what I'm going to do is find this arc that is missing. So I'm going to do 95 plus 165. And 95 plus 165 is 260. So this piece that's missing is 260. That angle of angle 1, that's called an inscribed angle, which means it's going to be half of that arc. So half of 260 is 130. Number 13, find X. Okay, so what I can see here, this right here is an inscribed angle. Okay, and you can see that the diameter, which means this arc right here is 180, which means this inscribed angle is half of that, so that is a right angle. So what you have to notice here is that if that is a right angle, what I now know is that these two angles need to add up to be 90. So 2x and 4x is 6x, 14 minus 2 is 12, equals 90. Subtract 12, so 6x equals 78, and I'm going to do 78 divided by 6, and you get 13. Number 14, find X. So what you see here is this quadrilateral inside of the circle. What I know is that the opposite angles are congruent. So x and 3x is 4x. Sorry, they're not congruent. They're supplementary. So opposite angles are supplementary. So 4x minus 20 equals 180. I'm going to add 20 to both sides. So 4x equals 200. And divide by 4. So x is going to be 50. Number 15, BC is tangent to circle A. If CAB is 60 and CB is 4 square root of 3, find the length of AB. So we're trying to find this right here. Okay, what you see here is this tangent line to this radius. When you have a tangent and a radius like this, that makes a right angle. So what we now have is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. So I'm just going to redraw this out here so you kind of see what's going on. You've got your 60, your 30, and then it says that this is 4 root 3. So what you have to think back to is our 30, 60, 90, how you would see it on the formula chart. What the formula chart is going to say is this is your short side, so that's x. This is your long side, so that's x root 3, and your hypotenuse is 2x. So let's see what we have here. They give us the long side. Okay, so let's compare that to the long side in the formula. So notice that it's 4 root 3, and the formula says x root 3. Since they both have the root 3 on them, it's just, x is just going to be 4. Okay, so here, x, this side, is going to be 4. So that side is 4. And then to get the hypotenuse, which is what it's asking for here, it's wanting AB. To get that, I'm going to do 2 times x, which is going to be 8. A lot involved in that problem, but you got to remember your 30, 60, 90s. Number 16, find the perimeter of the quadrilateral. So what we have here are a bunch of tangent lines. When you have 2 tangent lines meet up at the same point outside your circle, those segments are going to be congruent. So if that little piece is 6, so is that little piece. Okay, if this little piece is 5, so is that little piece. And then here, if that side's 4, then that side's 4. And up at the top, if that side's 2, then that side's 2. And we're just going to add all those up. So 6 plus 6 is 12, plus 5 plus 5 is 22, plus 4 is 30, plus 2 plus, wait, I already did that. I think it's 30. Let me redo that. So 6 plus 6 is 12, plus 5 is 22, plus 4 is 30, plus 2 is 34. Number 17, find the measures of arc AC, or if arc AC is 75, so 75 here, and DB is 65. Okay, when you have these 2 secant lines crossing in the middle, notice they kind of make a plus sign. Okay, that tells me that I need to add these 2 arcs together. So I'm going to do 75 plus 65. And I'm going to divide by 2, and that's going to get me what the measure of that angle is. So 75 plus 65 is 140. And if I divide that by 2, then that angle, both of these angles inside here, are going to be 70. Number 18, if the measure of arc FHG is 240, so this big arc here is 240, it wants me to find the measure of angle E. So what we need to do first is figure out this arc that's missing here. So I'm going to do 360 minus 240, and that's going to be 120. So this little arc here is 120. Now when you have this angle being created outside of the circle, you're going to subtract those 2 arcs. And make sure you subtract them in the right order. If you go the other way around, it's going to be negative. So I'm going to do 240 minus 140 divided by 2, and that's going to get me x. So 240 minus 140 is 100. Divided by 2 is x. So x is 50. Number 19, this is actually a review problem. If an 8-foot flagpole casts a 20-foot shadow, how long is a shadow cast by a nearby 30-foot house at the same time? Okay, so I'm going to draw this little flagpole. It's 8 feet. It creates a 20-foot shadow. And then over here, we have a 30-foot house. And it wants to know how long is that shadow. Okay, so here we're going to set up a proportion. You can either do 8 over 30 equals 20 over x, or you can do 8 over 20 equals 30 over x. I usually keep the sides together. So I'm going to do 8 over 30 equals 20 over x. And to solve a proportion, we're going to cross multiply. So that's going to be 8x equals 600. And if I do 600 divided by 8, that gets me 75. And that is it.